Hello and welcome to the 37 Minutes of Heaven we call the D1Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Patrick Rooney III. Today's episode brought to us by our good friends at S2 Cognition. It's 7 in the morning on the West Coast, so there's no way I'm going to use a phrase like revolutionary approach. What I'm going to tell you about S2 Cognition is Ted Williams taught us that if you don't make good swing decisions, you are doomed in baseball or softball. So be a great athlete and also make great swing decisions. S2 Cognition can help you with that. Get an assessment and improve in that area. Really pleased to be sponsored by them. Want to also say thank you to Pitch Logic. Oh, Fitzy, did you want to chime in there?
I just want to say that's a fantastic pitch right there. You had me at Ted Williams.
That's right. And I'm proud of myself for going off script there too. Now I may stay on script here. Pitch Logic is a system used by players, coaches, scouts, and instructors at all levels of play, from youth leagues to the big leagues. It's easy to use and it's affordable technology. It's accessible to every player at every level. It's metrics and features that are used at the highest level of our sport. See pitchlogic.com for more information there. I'm gonna squeeze our third read in right now because it's going to lead us to inane banter. And I also have a little note in here that says, remember to take a break for Pat, which is hilarious. So we'll say that out loud today. Postseason baseball is literally right around the corner, like days away. This year's Phillips 66 Big 12 Baseball Championship is bigger and better than ever. It's May 21st to the 25th. That's like 4 days away. 10 teams vying for the Big 12 title. Climate-controlled Globe Life Field. For people like Kendall Rogers that are a little on the softer side, they need that climate-controlled element. Home of the world champion Texas Rangers, and take Kendall's lead. Like, don't just get a regular old seat unless that's what you prefer. There's premium ticket options. There's premier seats. There's club access. That's how Kendall rolls. There's complimentary perks. Secure your tickets today by visiting globelifefield.com/Big12, globelifefield.com/Big12. Yours truly, Coach Rooney, will be there as well. Also, the great Clay Matvick. I don't know if that helps anybody, but Clay is wonderful. So,
Minnesota's finest.
That's right. Good morning, gentlemen. How are we doing?
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a little jet lagged, but I'm not going to make excuses for that, Fitzy. I'm going to use that as fuel this morning. Like it's gonna add to the nonsense. Here's my question for you guys. What when you go to a game, like how do you like to roll, Fitzy? And Joe, you'll go next. Like, do you like to be in a club suite like Kendall? And Kendall's always very clever to make sure he's on TV. He's right behind home plate. And how do you roll, Fitzy? What's your preferred locale in a stadium?
I'm those C-suite Rogers. All right, listen, I'm a man of the people. I'm out there rubbing elbows, trying to wedge myself into a seat behind the plate till I get kicked out because I don't have a ticket. But trying to get the best view. I will say I'll be at the ACC tournament in Charlotte, and they have a really good setup for the media. And so I won't be as much of a man of the people because they got us right there. It's a press box is at a great spot. They give us the suite right behind the plate, unless they've changed it. I hope they haven't, because it's great. And so you feel like you can see, you get a pretty good vantage point. I like to feel like I'm down low and I'm involved in the action. And in there, I can still sit in my nice air conditioned press box. I've got the best, the best snack game in all of sports. The incredible snack bar, as we've talked about many times. And I can, I got my laptop, I can monitor other stuff. So during conference tournament week, all bets are off. I'm going to take advantage of the hospitality that I get. But otherwise, I like to get down in there with the real people, the baseball fans.
You'll be a man of the snacks this weekend, Fitzy. You're usually a man of the people.
Man of the snacks.
Yes, that's great. That's very fair. Joseph, what say you? Where how do you like to set up?
Yeah, so if I'm covering a game, I tend to be a press box creature because I'm not as talented as Fitzy is about being able to move between the phone, doing social media, and the scorebook, and then he's got the radar gun oftentimes, and then a camera. Like I don't have all of that, and I still can't manage all of it. So I like to have the tabletop, to have my scorebook, and be able to have my laptop out. I also, if I'm going to be honest, I like to just BS with the people in the press box, because I'm a social animal. So I like to chat it up. So that's part of the appeal as well, especially given that most of my games are in SEC venues. So it's a lot of familiar people I see, once or twice a year. So we catch up and what have you. So that's kind of nice. Now, if I am at a game as a fan, which happens less and less just because I spend so much time at games as working, I like to roam as a fan. Like I like to standing room only is just fine with me. Like I like to find a standing area, with a rail or something like that, because I'm kind of fidgety and sometimes it's hard for me to sit still. So being able to roam around a little bit and get different vantage points is kind of where it's at for me as a fan anyway.
Roam if you want to, Joe.
That's right. Roam around the world.
Underrated song. Very good. Very good tune. So I see some comments already. Jeremy Scott, Roll Tide. He's always in first. Jeremy Scott is our official leadoff hitter on these shows with Roll Tide.
No doubt.
Love that. Chris Kaneko, Let's Go Omahawks, WPS Razorbacks. Johnny Walker. Yes, I wish I was going to be in Scottsdale. I will have missed all 3 of the Pac-12 tournaments. Really disappointing. Joe, are Jeremy and Chris Kaneko, are they weekend waypoint?
Jeremy, very much so, yes. Jeremy is usually first and at weekend waypoints as well. I don't know how he does it, but I appreciate that he does it. Chris less so. So Chris, come on by this weekend. I'll have episodes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's a 4-episode week on weekend waypoints.
Wow.
Every day before the games. So Chris, feel free to jump on in. We're going live 4 days this week.
Yes. Weekend waypoints is delightful, Fitzy. I have baked it into my it's my favorite thing. Wake up, read the Daily Digest on the weekend mornings. If I'm on the road, I'll try to hit a Panera usually, and I will blare weekend waypoints for the Panera patrons. I don't care. They're listening to it. It's for their own good, Fitzy. I'm helping them get better.
I listen to it while I brush my teeth.
Oh, that's clever too.
Multitasking.
Yeah, good for you.
That's a play out of Atomic Habits by James Clear right there. Well done.
He's brushing his teeth for 30 minutes. Apparently.
That's right. I get after it.
Dental hygiene is a priority in his life. Boys, this morning we're going to do a turbo pod, which we love. And so as I've explained to you, we're going to go to the scores page. We're going to go to Friday so we don't get tricked, even though today is Thursday. Let's go to Friday's page. We're going to go in reverse order. We're going to go all the way to the bottom. You guys don't even need to transition me. I will, actually, I'll start us. And then Fitzy, I'll go to you, and then Joe will come to me, and we could just keep ripping around. I'll have a minute timer on here to keep us honest. And let me set it up. The one thing our scoreboard's not showing right now is the Ivy League has a regional format that starts on Friday. So just like a typical, like almost like a regional preview. And Columbia, Brett Baretti and Columbia have an awesome program. They're the #1 seed. And, remember, Virginia Tech, the Blacksburg Regional 2022, Columbia went down there and broke Gonzaga's hearts. Virginia Tech won that regional clearly. Penn was 2-0 in a regional last year. They're a 4 seed, and they've got players all over the SEC and big time college baseball, ACC and SEC. Then Princeton's the #2. I think this is Scott Bradley's last season as the coach. And I didn't have any nuggets on Cornell, so I looked them up, and they're like top 40 in the country in fielding percentage. So there you go. It's a good defense. Is that true?
It's been a little. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe.
Sorry.
Go ahead. You're good.
I was going to say Cornell hasn't been in that spot in a while, so that feels big for that program. It's typically, historically kind of been towards the bottom of the Ivy League in recent years. So getting to this point is a big deal for them. I was also going to mention that Penn has a couple more players. Wyatt Hensler is going to A&M next season. If he doesn't get a crack at pro, I assume he'll get a crack at pro ball. It'll be his choice. Cole Zafiro, one of their starters, is going to Wake next season. So there's another group coming from Penn that is poised to make an impact this postseason if the Quakers can run through this tournament.
Yep, gotta love it. The Patriot League, they're down to 2 teams. It's Army and Navy, so they'll be actually the Ivy will be our first team, the first ticket punched. The Patriot League, it's a best of 3 series. Navy at Army, that's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and at Army in West Point. Our boy Chuck, our buddy Chuck Restano had gone from Notre Dame to Florida State, and now he's the head coach at Navy. They've had a really good year. Yeah. And then I always mess it up. Chris Trask, is that how you guys say it? Was it Marist at Army?
I think that's fine.
Yeah. Is it a cromulent pronunciation? Fitzy?
Perfectly cromulent.
I would say
whenever we get multiple consonants hanging out together, it's just all bets are off.
Yeah, all bets are off.
I typically, I don't know if this is more correct or less correct, but I typically say tracks, like TRACKS, pronounce it like that. Who knows?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'll Google that while we're talking. All right, so we're gonna go to the bottom. I kicked us off right there. So, Fitzy, do you want to hit? I'm gonna give you Fitzy. You're kind of in pole position over there. You want to hit
Yeah.
lead off, or you
Yes,
want to hit
I
second?
do.
Okay.
I do want to hit lead
So
off.
take us from the bottom to the top. What do you got?
Because I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about the WAC.
All
Let's
right,
go.
you're on the clock.
Top 2 teams in the WAC go at it this weekend, Grand Canyon and Utah Valley. Now, listen, Grand Canyon's already clinched the regular season title, so nothing is really at stake here. It's just kind of a preview of maybe the WAC tournament, what we could be looking at. Can Utah Valley or anyone else knock off the Lopes? The Lopes remain, the class of this conference. That's nothing new. They're really good. They have really good players, but Utah Valley also has good players, Runes. And I know you were excited about the Wolverines heading into the year. You even wrote a fall report on them. Your boy Daniel Dickinson has delivered once again. Maybe the best player in America that people don't know about. I mean, he feels to me like he could be a Team USA type guy. I don't know if he's on their radar or what. Sophomore this year with a 1100 OPS, 17 homers, and Burt Camper, dynamic 1-2 punch with Dickinson and Camper. They combined for 35 home runs. I like their team just from reading your report and watching a little bit from afar, and curious to see if they can go in there or it's at home. See if they can give Grand Canyon some trouble this weekend.
Fitzy, that was incredible use of your 60 seconds. Like, that's bravo right there. Like, right at the wire, you got the shot clock usage right there. Joe, Fitzy just set a high bar right there.
He absolutely did. I'm going to go to the WCC. We're going to talk about St. Mary's at Portland. 2 good stories within the WCC. If you rewind the tape to 10 years ago, the idea that these 2 teams would be top half WCC teams might have been hard to believe. But, and then even on the micro level, you have Eric Valenzuela back at St. Mary's, and he just microwaved that program, basically. I mean, they're right back in the thick of it in the WCC. And Portland, of course, has been, Runes, you've detailed this well last couple of years, kind of slowly and methodically building. And they've gotten to a point where now they're consistently at the top of this league. They're second and third in the league, tied for second, I guess I should say, in the league behind San Diego. So a sweep either way, one of these teams could still be in the mix to perhaps be right there with San Diego. The tricky part is, though, San Diego's season weirdly is over. Like, they're done the regular season. They're just taking the weekend off, preparing for the WCC tournament. So I guess technically they can't catch them because they can only make up a game and a half with San Diego idle. So, there it was. I'm out. I'm done.
Well done.
I'm done.
Again, good shot clock.
Little clumsy at the finish. You got a violation, but it was close.
Yeah. I thought he got a shot off, but it wasn't a great shot.
All right, that's fair. Yeah, he chucked it from 45 feet.
Yeah. And it was definitely a bank shot. It was a non-purposeful bank shot for sure. All right, so I'm going to go. Let me put myself on the timer here. I'm going to go to the Sun Belt. James Madison at Troy. I mean, James Madison is like it's all caps bubblicious right now. They've had a very nice season, but this would be huge for them. I think Troy is interesting. I think we all kind of assume Troy is in and safe, but they are, sitting there with not the most glorious RPI. I think if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to find it 49.
40,
yeah. So that's not super comfortable. So I don't think Troy's got a lot of wiggle room right here. Losing that series at Texas State was kind of weird last week because they've been playing so well, but I want Troy in the NCAA tournament. I think they're really a good team. Brooks Bryan and Will Butcher, the meat man in the middle of the order. But for Jay, I just think it's a really important series for both teams. And the Sun Belt is heating up.
Yeah, well done there, the meat man. Listen, we want Troy on that wall. We need Troy on that wall. I see what you tried to do to me here, Runes, and I'm not going to bite. We're going to skip the Summit League. Next, on to the SWAC. We've got Florida A&M is kind of your team to beat there. They've got Mississippi Valley State this weekend, trying to bring it on home. It seems like the Rattlers have kind of separated themselves a little bit now. They're a game and a half up on Bethune-Cookman. These teams had been pretty bunched. It's still been a pretty good race, but Florida A&M feels like they're kind of the class of the league, and obviously it's going to come down to the conference tournament. It's a one-bid league, but I think winning the regular season would be a nice accomplishment. So I got my eye on the Rattlers. Can they bring it on home? Texas Southern, Bethune-Cookman, Grambling, all kind of giving chase there.
Love it.
So I am on to the Southland, and I am fact checking something for myself before I start talking here. I just want to make we've got New Orleans and Lamar. I'm interested in the Lamar side of this. I was checking to see if they played. I forget the format of the Southland. It's version 10.0 of the Southland at this point. Lamar's had a really nice season, but they're now in a situation where any hopes of being an at-large team have gone by the wayside, and you just hate to see situations where a team that's clearly been the best and most talented team in a small league like that ends up kind of sputtering to the finish and then not ultimately winning the auto bid. And like, look, you got to earn it. Like, so that's on the table. But anyway, New Orleans is a good team too, as well. They've won a lot of games this year, 13-8 in the conference. Not going to be a cakewalk for Lamar to finish the regular season. They're playing on the road at New Orleans. Nobody just walks into Ron Maestri Field and expects to win games. So, I'm fast. As someone who grew up at a time when Lamar was really, really good as a member of the Southland, it is kind of fun to see this resurgence for that program, and we'll see how it continues.
Oh, Joe, you're down with 2 seconds left on the clock right there. Well done.
Nice. Thank you.
I'm bummed out about Lamar. Like, you're right that their large deal is over, but it's like they're 39-12 with a road sweep at Oklahoma. And it's like, how are they done? But metrics are going to metric, and their non-conference strength of schedule was brutal. So, which again is a paradox because of the Oklahoma series. So it is what it is. That's an argument for another day. I'm officially on the clock. I'm going to go to the SoCon, the Southern Conference, which is just a glorious name. It's just the Southern Conference. There's a non-conference weekend in there. USC Upstate is traveling to UNC Greensboro. There's a piece on our site on Caleb Cozart, who started his career at UNC by the great Walt Villa. I've not read it yet. I can't wait to read it. UNC Greensboro is having a great year. This is these are two teams that they're not at large teams, but they were kind of like borderline. They both feel very much like regional teams. If they win their conference tournament, they will not be gratuitous 4 seeds in any way. So there's really no stakes in this weekend other than it's just 2 fun teams that could both end up in regionals.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. And highly recommend people read that Cozart feature. It talks about the whole family dynamics. I mean, it's cool that he's got 2 first round caliber brothers, with Jacob obviously at NC State, and Sam, who's a Texas A&M commit, who's regarded as like a really, really elite talent for the draft. And of course, their dad is Craig Cozart, who was head coach at High Point. But Caleb, neat story, overcame a brain tumor, Tommy John surgery, was more of a pitcher, then became more of a position player. And now he's like top 20 in the country in OPS. It's pretty cool. I got the SEC. I hope you didn't start my clock yet. I got the SEC.
Now, Fitzy, just to be clear, you don't have to take we can all partake of the SEC.
No, I figured there'd be multiples here.
Yep, go for it.
So I am going to start with South Carolina at Tennessee. I mean, you talk about any one of these series, they all have intrigue. South Carolina at Tennessee. Gamecocks need to win one here, guys. Is my opinion. I mean, like, we were kind of talking about them last week as a host. And if they want to host, I mean, they got to. I don't even know if winning 2 out of 3 will do it, because it would just get them to 15-15. As we've seen, teams that finish at 500 in the league almost never host. It has happened, I think, one time when a team made a deep run in the conference tournament, and that's it. And so, they got to sweep really if they want to host. So I don't think that's the case. But I just think, to gain some momentum, they're probably in fine as long as they at least win a game here. If they get swept here, I wonder if maybe they start to have some bubble trouble just with the way that they finished the year last couple of weeks. I mean, I don't know, probably not, but it's something to keep an eye on, because then if they go one and done in Hoover too, like all of a sudden you're looking at 13 and 18 in the league. Not great. So keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I'll build off of that real quick and just say, like, that would be 2 consecutive sweeps plus a loss in Hoover if that happens. Like, it starts to get, the committee is made up of humans, so it starts to get a little bit untenable of like, are we really going to put this team in? Anyway, I'm going to talk about A&M and Arkansas, the series that really we've been looking forward to all season. We thought it might be number 1 versus number 2. It is not that, but I think there's a scenario where this is actually, there's more urgency about this series now with the way it's played out than there would have been had they been 1 and 2. Both teams are kind of fighting against regression here. A&M's lost 2 series in a row. Their rotation has been a little bit touchy outside of Ryan Prager. Ryan Prager has been steady. They're keeping him there, but the rest of the rotation is They've got a TBA, and they've got Shane Sadeo in the rotation, who started last weekend against Ole Miss and was great. So A&M clearly trying to find some things. Arkansas, similarly, TBA, not TBA, but basically because you've got Hagen Smith, then you've got Gage Wood starting, and then a TBA. So Gage Wood, I think it's likely to be not a opener situation, but a kind of a staff day after a few innings. So Arkansas also signaling that what they've been in the rotation lately outside of Hagen Smith has not been good enough, and we'll have to see how that affects what they do ultimately in the postseason.
So obviously it sounds like Tigert is dealing with injury stuff and doesn't sound great. But so Molina just ineffectiveness? Is that why he's out potentially?
I think that's the assumption. Yeah, I mean that was the rotation came out late last night, so I don't know if there's been any official word yet lately. But I think that's the understanding there is that it's just kind of like, hey, let's shake this. And and there had been backsliding from both Tigert before he was sidelined and Molina. So I think it's a decent time to do it. I think Arkansas has sewn up like all of the top 8 seed, all of that kind of stuff. So why not just kind of shake things up a little bit and signal that, hey, we need to get serious here. Like this is the important time of year. So we'll see. But when you have Hagen Smith, you've got such a cheat code. It does give you some rope to play around with the rest of the rotation.
Right. Joe, when you said the committee's made up of humans, you sent my brain just flying down a road an uncharted road. My first thought was, what if we have robo committee, like robo umps? Then I was like, what about cyborgs? What if a cyborg's on the committee? How do we feel about that? So then my brain was thinking about the movie The Terminator.
Why don't we just get we can get Meta AI, we can get Google Assistant, and then we can get Alexa all in a room and let them figure it out.
Well, yeah, and then we'll give it a name like the BCS. How about that?
There you go.
Yeah,
you're onto something now.
Bingo. All right, let me put myself on the clock because I do have a hard stop at the top of the hour. Ole Miss at LSU, I mean, feels like a play-in weekend. I think 2 under 500 SEC records. LSU, we know has high-end talent, but boy, their pitching can be problematic. Ole Miss is a team I've been really down on at times. Their defense, their run prevention has been dreadful, but I watched some of that series last weekend against A&M, and they, the Mendez kid, the freshman, I think it's Will Mendez, like that's a real left-handed arm. And then their closer, Joe, I don't know his first name, but his last name's Spencer, and you're watching him, it's like 95, 96, it's like, whoa. And that's the SEC for you, right? Like you can actually be not very good and still have very good players. And so, Ole Miss and LSU, like both teams really need that series. And I would anticipate, I would anticipate that be an electric series all weekend.
LSU needs to sweep, in my opinion, to get that. I think they need to get to 13 wins. I don't like their chances at 12. Ole Miss needs to find a way to win 2 out of 3 on the road. And if the most likely thing happens, if LSU takes 2 out of 3 at home, then they both wind up with 12 wins. And then you really need to help yourselves in Hoover. So it could wind up that they both wind up missing out no matter who wins this series. And real quick, Rob Bright chimes in, robo players, which, I mean, I think that's the direction we're heading with the esports. Isn't that basically just like people playing video games? It's basically just robo players. Right?
The fabulous Roon Dogs have been so dominant this year that people have accused us of using robo players. So, and that's fair. It's a fair criticism.
Absolutely. All right. I think
who else you like in this league? Yeah, that's right.
Okay, we can talk about this another go round here. How about, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, guys? Like Vanderbilt kind of in the same boat. It feels like as South Carolina, all of a sudden you're heading into this series like, hey, wait a minute. Like we were hosting, in the hosting mix a couple weeks ago, and now we're like kind of just trying to make sure we don't fall in the bubble. They're 12-15 in the conference, 28 in the RPI. Now they're on the road against the number 1 projected national seed. Should they get swept, like they're in a lot of trouble. If they win just 1 game, they're probably still on the bubble. Don't you think, Joe? Like 13. I mean, it's not, it's not like they've got an elite RPI. And so like, this is a big series. And if you look at their trend here recently, it's 7 losses in their last 10 games, I believe. 3 straight series losses. I guess they got swept by Georgia, but they managed to win a game against State and Tennessee. But if they finish the season with 4 straight series losses, and 13 wins in the league, I don't know. Could be a little dicey. We'll see how big the bubble is.
I'll clean up one more thing here in the SEC with Florida, Georgia. Florida's kind of the weirdest bubble team in the country because they're a bubble team on 2 fronts. One, they need to get to the requisite number of SEC wins, and secondarily, they have to stay over 500. which the math is pretty clear on that now. If they lose that series to Georgia, A, they're not going to get to 13 SEC wins, but then B, they'll be exactly 500, which means they will need to exit Hoover having won more games than they lost. So that basically all of that just means they need to win the series against Georgia. That's kind of the bottom line there. And I'm not really the list of teams that I would pick to go to Athens and win this series right now is pretty short with the way that Georgia's playing. The offense is what it is. Obviously very, very good offense, but the pitching has gotten so much better. A month ago, I didn't think they had the pitching to get out of a regional. Now I think they could pitch well enough to get to Omaha. That's just kind of the improvement they've made, which has been really impressive. So Florida's really in the danger zone here.
Yep. Well done, Joe. All right. I'm actually going to take us through the SEC. I do feel compelled to mention Alabama and Auburn just because Alabama has this really unique resume where let me pull it up here. They're 12-15 in the league. I could very easily see Auburn beating Alabama. Now Alabama's 13-17, but their RPI is 11, which feels infallible.
Yeah.
Let me write that down as a potential word of the day.
As long as they get to 13, that is an infallible RPI. It's different than Vandy at 28. Like if Vandy, if anyway, yes, go on.
No, you're good. You're good. So, but let me keep cruising. The Patriot League we mentioned in the Pac-12. The series of the weekend is Oregon State at Arizona. It feels like they're playing for a host. They're playing for a Pac-12 regular season title. Oregon State's got to sweep Arizona to do that. But those are two really good teams. That will be a fun series. Aiden Mays returning to Arizona. Doesn't sound like Arizona was thrilled with his transferring. Travis Bazzana is compelling television.
That's the series of the year in that league. I really wanted to try to find a way out there, and just right before conference tournament, I couldn't do it. But boy, that's going to be a fun one. I mean, because I think Oregon State's style of play translates well to that place. It's an offensive yard, but not necessarily. It's not a homer dome, but it does play offensive, and they're an offensive club, which makes it even more impressive how well Arizona has pitched this year. I mean, their starting pitching is. I would put it on the short list of the best rotations in the country. It's one of the few places where we've had three guys who've gone out every week and been good and reliable. So doubling down on that series, I wanted to talk about it because I think it's compelling. And, like you said, if Arizona wins that series, can they host with an RPI, a little bit lower than usual? I think they could with the Pac-12 title. But if the Beavers fail to sweep it, could they be in trouble of losing a host? I don't think so. I think they're probably okay. But if they do sweep it, could they climb up into the top 8? It's possible.
Love it. Joe, go where you might.
I'm going to move us up to the Ohio Valley. Little Rock has kind of quietly, they're early in the season. We were like, well, I guess this team maybe isn't all we kind of cracked it up to be. But here they are, a game up in the standings on SEMO. They've got a tough series this weekend with Tennessee Tech, though. That's going to be on the road at Tennessee Tech. We know how that ballpark plays. That's a ballpark that can allow for high scores, which increases variability in results, and could be a tough weekend for Little Rock if they're not able to match firepower with Tennessee Tech. And I think Tennessee Tech also is kind of a sneaky good team this year. They're just 13-11 in the league. They're 200 something in the RPI, so I don't want to go overboard with it, but that's a program that is building to something in Matt Braga's second time around. And if you look at his history, the first time around at Tennessee Tech, it took him a little time, but once he got it rolling, it got rolling. It feels a little bit similar this time around, that they're building to something here. And maybe this year isn't the year, but certainly I would not want to be going there as Little Rock is trying to clinch an OVC regular season title.
Love it. I don't know if you guys like this comp, but 2018 Tennessee Tech, who won the Oxford Regional and went down and played Texas tough. That team was really fun in a way like 2012 Stony Brook was really fun. I liked their style of play. I thought they had really good players. I can't remember his name. There's no chance I'll remember his name, but Tennessee Tech had a 4th round pick of the Cubs, a pitcher that had just a ripper of a slider. He was a really good athlete. Looked like he should have been a position player. But anyway.
Do they have AJ KJ on that team? AJ Kirby Jones?
Oh, did they really? Oh, that's excellent right there. Boys, so I'm going to kind of cruise past the Northeast Conference where, Sacred Heart and Long Island and Wagner have all played really, really well, but none of those teams are playing right now. Mountain West, it feels like New Mexico and Fresno State, but it's going to be whoever wins the tournament right there. Missouri Valley, nothing really of intrigue. Indiana State's running away. That's going to come down to the tournament. And there you go. Like the Mid-American Conference, what do you call it? The Bowling Green has had an awesome year, but that is also going to come down to the tournament. Go ahead, Fitzy.
Well, that was very, very efficient use of your time, Runes, and I appreciate it. And you set me up perfectly to talk about the MAC, where
just means more vowels.
That's right. That's
Stephen Chalk did that. Can't take credit for that.
God bless you, Stephen Chalk. Fairfield has a 1-game lead in the standings with Niagara, Ryder kind of nipping at their heels, like the other leagues you talked about. It's going to come down to the conference tournament, but it does feel like I just think it's worth noting that you've had 3 teams here. We've talked about a lot of these leagues where it's like, God, nobody's even over 500. Summit, nobody's even 500 over 500 overall. This team has 3 teams at the top that are over 500. Fairfield and Niagara both are over 30 wins. I mean, RPIs, guys, for Fairfield, Niagara, and Ryder, we're talking 126, 129, 161. Like, compare that to, like, again, the Summit or a lot of other bottom tier leagues. Like, it's a good year for the MAC, and I just want to make sure we get that on the record. MAC,
Fitzy's not reaching for the peak this year. You're just not feeling the peak. No.
I'm going to bump up to the Horizon League real quick. We've got this weekend Wright State and Northern Kentucky facing off, battle for the regular season title. Now, Wright State's 2 games up, so Northern Kentucky would need something pretty special on the road this weekend to get that done. But again, like, given the way Northern Kentucky's played this year, let's not forget they won a series against Mizzou on the road earlier this season. Like, so they have some real wins on the resume. And Wright State should be thinking they're lucky stars this isn't being played at the Bill Acre Baseball Complex in Highland Heights, Kentucky, because that's a real cauldron, as we know.
Cauldron.
But in all seriousness, like, Dizzy Payton's the coach there. He was a longtime assistant, took over as the head coach. Seems like doing a really good job there. I mean, let's not forget this was a program that was kind of an also-ran in the Horizon that has become a little more consistent and now looks like a program that's maybe headed somewhere. I'm kind of interested to see the trajectory where they go from here to build off the success they've had this season, no matter how this weekend goes.
Love it. Cauldron. I like our gratuitous cauldron reference right there. Conference USA, as I look at their scoreboard, very bizarre. Like, I don't even see DBU on here right now. Like, I don't know if they have some bizarre bye week or
they've got middle.
Oh, okay.
Middle
so it
Tennessee.
just didn't show up. Okay, good. Louisiana Tech plays Liberty. That's of interest. But I think Conference USA, Louisiana Tech and DBU feel in a very good place, but the conference tournament will be compelling there. Then it takes me to the CAA, and on the Nerdcast, which is mandatory listening, we know that College of Charleston and UNC Wilmington and Northeastern really they don't have much room for error. It feels like 2 of those 3 teams are going to be tournament bound. In the Big West, Santa Barbara is playing at Northridge, Irvine's at Fullerton. Those are tricky series, but you could those 2 teams kind of feel like they're in their own class. And then let me serve the Big Ten to you, Fitzy.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were gonna give me an action.
No,
you said let me serve, and you didn't serve, and I'm sitting here
I'm giving you I'm space for an ISO. Yeah.
Okay.
Let you cook.
The Big Ten, Illinois and Purdue, big series in this league. At Purdue, Illinois leads the league by 2 games over the Boilermakers. So Purdue, if they can sweep this series, then they can potentially win the league outright, although not if Nebraska has anything to say about it. Nebraska is in between them, 1 game back. They go to Michigan State. And then you got Indiana right there in the mix as well. So I feel like we've got a situation where whoever wins the regular season title probably winds up getting a bid, even with a lesser RPI. I kind of like Purdue's chances at home this weekend against Illinois, but Illinois, they've kind of found a way to just keep on keeping on and maintaining that spot atop the standings. And I'd be curious to see if they can continue to do that this weekend. But if Nebraska wins the regular season, then I wonder if it, how does that affect it? Like, does that maybe open the door for Maryland or Indiana to pop in without winning it because they've got better RPIs?
That regular season championship matters, and I dig it. Like, that's so fun. Like, I don't want to live in a world where regular season championships don't matter. So,
agreed.
Joe.
All right, let's. I'm going to do this on the fly. We're going to look at the Big South. Rune's already talked about that USC Upstate non-conference series. That's probably the one to watch there. In the Big East, Georgetown, St. John's. St. John's is kind of perilously on either side of the bubble week after week, so that's a big series for them at home. Shout out to Jack Kaiser Stadium. So, Runes, if it's okay, I'll go ahead and jump into the Big 12 real quick.
Yeah.
And just quickly say, I won't take too much time here. I'm fascinated by Kansas and Texas because they're kind of opposite ends of the same. I like Kansas's overall resume, and they're probably not, but RPI is not quite there. So I think they're a regional caliber club that might not have the numbers. And then Texas is in a situation where, the numbers aren't in their favor either, but they've done so much in the Big 12. Now the RPI has gotten better. They're probably actually in that mix now, but for a long time, we were looking at a Texas team that I'm not sure any of us really totally were bought in on. And they've just kind of slowly but surely and kind of in a not real sexy way have just inserted themselves back in that discussion.
Love it. I'm going to take West Virginia at TCU. TCU has a conference record problem of 13-14. Their RPI of 39 is, as Fitzy would say, perfectly cromulent. But 13-14 in the league's not great. And they really need to win this series at West Virginia. If they don't win this series, I'm starting to get really anxious about TCU. West Virginia is third in the league. They've got 17 Big 12 wins. And I have recency bias, but I saw West Virginia just bomb Penn State in a midweek game, and I am smitten with West Virginia's offense. JJ Weatherholt is fully healthy, and he is raking. He's playing shortstop again. They're a little light on the mound, West Virginia, but I'm telling you, West Virginia is the type of team that could just sneak up and win a regional. Their offense will travel. So that's a compelling weekend right there.
Yeah, and Derek Clark is a bad mother, watch your mouth. I love that guy, all fit type, like 5'8", lefty bulldog. And the guy that Seif wrote about who pitched on Friday for them up to 95 sounded very interesting as well. I'm drawing a blank on the name, but I was in the bullpen before. So maybe that's what they needed to do, pull that lever. I'm jumping to the ACC guys. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. North Carolina and Duke, though, it seems like a big one for Duke, really, to try to get themselves. They got a bunch of teams on that 15 and 11, 15 and 12 line trying to separate themselves and become host types. And Duke is one. They've got North Carolina. NC State is one. They've got Wake Forest. Wake Forest is one. They're at NC State. If Wake wins a series because of where they are, they could wind up being a top 8 seed. But if they lose a series, they could wind up not hosting. Like that's kind of what we're looking at here. Virginia also on that line. Virginia Tech goes to UVA. They're trying to play their way into the field as a bubble team. And so you got a lot of teams on the line, not a lot of separation.
I will use my time here to cede time back to the representative from Durham. We had a question in the chat. Tom Mosser on X asked, "Are the Duke arms shot? Is it over for the Blue Devils?" Define over however you would like, Aaron, but take that question.
I'm a little concerned because I talked a lot this year about how I thought their pitching was going to be, was the best in the league. And that's why I liked them. I thought they were the best team in the league. And yeah, they went down to Georgia Tech and gave up a bunch of runs. Now that'll happen at Russ Chandler. But obviously, it wasn't great and they didn't get any kind of good starts. Santucci was a scratch. So I'm not sure what his status is heading into this weekend. That's something that obviously bears monitoring. I probably should check on that. But none of their starters went more than 2 innings. And it's kind of like back to that openers thing, I guess, that they had last year. They still have enough bullpen pieces that I think they can patch it together. But I don't know. North Carolina is also a very offensive team. This weekend will be telling for them. It's something to keep an eye on. I'm nervous about it. Duke's still scoring runs, so they can still beat you that way. But maybe the pitching piece has kind of fallen off.
So I got lost in that transition. I don't know what series you guys are. I've heard a lot of Duke and North Carolina, but more importantly, Fitzy, you were just referred to as the representative from Durham. Is that a shot? Is that a new Raleigh resident taking a shot at you being a Durham guy?
No. That's just that's
respect?
just me. Yeah, just telling it like it is. He lives in Durham, so he's the representative from Durham. Like that's,
You're just taking a shot because I got the Duke blue on today. I see how it is. You call me biased, Joe? You call me biased? Nobody calls me biased.
Except for that sign behind you.
Except for that sign behind me, exactly.
Yes. So I don't even know whose turn it is, but let me wrap up the ACC for us. Wake at NC State. I have that series with the great Matt Schick. I have Friday night, and that'll be awesome just because that, like NC State's playing for a host. Wake's playing for, they could be a top 8. They could be a 2 seed. There's a wide range of outcomes for Wake still, but man, Wake is playing great. Cole Rowland is healthy. Nick Kurtz is healthy, and those two are balling. And Tom Walter basically said, you get 2 kids like that playing like that, it changes your team. Like everybody else just feels like they're house money. Like these 2 kids are so dominant right now. It was really interesting what he said. I'll give you another Tom Walter nugget. I asked him like, hey, the old wives' tale is it's better to get banged up in the regular season as opposed to have this perfect trip and like they did last year. And he said, part of that's true. Like, I like that we've been tested. But he said, what else I like is I like hosting in the postseason. Like, I like the fact that last year we got to play the 16 seed. And I like the fact that we weren't even considering packing our suitcases until Omaha. So, Tom Walter, always very, very measured. Georgia Tech at Florida State is interesting because those are two really good teams. And Georgia Tech feels like they've taken themselves off the bubble. Virginia Tech at Virginia is really important series for Virginia Tech. Speak now or forever hold your peace. And I feel like, Fitzy, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you guys keep having Virginia as a host almost reluctantly. And this could be like the Jenga, right? Like the one more Virginia. Okay, by the way, you're going on the road for the postseason.
Yeah, I think if they win this series, they're in a pretty good spot because their RPI is in a good spot. They're number 14-ish, 13 now. But it just felt like there's maybe a little lack of high-end wins. They're 6-6 against Q1, but they're 15-12. But if they win this series, get to 17, maybe 18 wins, they're certainly hosting. If they get to 17, they got a pretty good shot. But it also will depend how those other ACC teams do.
I would ask quickly on Georgia Tech too, Runes. I mean, RPI 48, and we probably don't expect them to win this series against Florida State. Now, that won't hurt the RPI, but at that point, they'd be 15-15 in the league. RPI may be closer to 50 than 45. Like that, That does feel like maybe you don't want to go to Charlotte and just lay an egg.
Yep. I think Georgia Tech's got a story you can tell. They lost 6 ACC games in 2 weeks, weeks 2 and 3. And Georgia Tech has got a sweep of NC State. NC State's made that play well. They swept Virginia Tech, who they're competing with. They won this, or not swept, they won the series. Won the series at Virginia. They've won a series over Duke. But you're right, Joe. Like, it's still important for Georgia Tech. Coach Farron and I had Danny Hall on the Sirius show this week, and we asked him, like, what has changed, and he told a good story about that, about Giesler getting healthy and Cam Jones using him in the rotation. So it was Georgia Tech was intriguing. Boys, let's do our the only other one that I think is interesting is Rice is at East Carolina, and East Carolina just has to they used their mulligan last weekend.
And I'm gonna probably start my weekend there tonight. It's a tough menu to choose this week because we got just here in the area we got Duke UNC, Wake NC State. But I'm gonna go to Greenville because I need to get eyes on the Pirates, and I think we got a good one tonight with Parker Smith and Trey Savage. But ECU is TBA for the rest of the weekend in their rotation. So obviously getting Zach Root back, getting Wyatt Lunsford-Shankman back, who last I checked led the country with a 1.00 ERA. Those are two huge keys for ECU getting in the postseason. It sounded like Cliff Godwin was optimistic that they were both going to be back. We'll see if that happens this weekend or next. It needs to happen.
Yep. Hey, let's award let's do the word of the day or the phrase of the day. You guys gave me a lot of choices. Fitzy, this was off air, but Joe had mentioned that he's allergic to cats, and you referred to that as a little chestnut. I thought that was just an amazing phrase.
Old chestnut, I think I said.
Old chestnut, yes. Yeah. Old chestnut, that's good. Promulgate came on. That was before we hit record. Infallible is always delicious. Cauldron, Joe, never gets tired.
Love Cauldron.
Perilously is a very aggressive play early in the morning, and Joe, you did not back down from it, so good on you.
It's more perilous, I will say, if you're from Philly and you have a hard time with those particular letters. Perilously,
that's right.
Horrible.
That's right.
Like you have marbles in your mouth.
Yes, I do. I want to bring back up the representative from Durham. I thought that was delicious, even if there was no ill intentions. I prefer if there were. Fitzy, you used the phrase "bad mother, watch your mouth." That was just amazing. But Shaft Joe, reference. I think I'm going to give you that bad. It's a tie. I'm going to do that. Bad mother, watch your mouth is amazing. Fitzy, congratulations. Joe, you used the phrase, you referred to yourself as a # social animal. And yes, that was amazing. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Those are facts. So, boys, this was delicious. In fact, thank you for doing this. We snuck this in early in the morning. And that's it. Everybody have a great final weekend of the regular season. Conference tournaments are imminent Tuesday, in fact. And there will be more podcasts. And that said, we will catch you next time on the D1 Baseball Podcast.